Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. This is virtual class of Pakistan International School Taif. I am Muhammad Yasin. This English class is for the students of grade 8. We are doing our lesson 5 of guided book 2. This is our 13th video in this class. In our today's lesson, we shall learn to write an essay. The topic is patriotism. In our today's lesson, we shall try to develop understanding of the passage given in this lesson. This is lesson 5. We shall be able to understand the meaning and correct pronunciation of new words. In our today's lesson, we shall do exercise A of comprehension and vocabulary at the end of lesson 5. This exercise is given. We shall do it in this lesson also. Dear students, let us start from the essay Patriotism. This essay is given in your Brighter Grammar. I have mentioned it here also. New Brighter Grammar 6. In our class, we shall study Grammar 6, page number 94. It can be seen here. This is the essay that we are going to learn today. Dear student, when we shall read this essay, we have to face the following words. Some of you may not be familiar with these words. That is why I have written here the meaning of all these words. I shall read them for you. You try to understand and then you try to memorize these words. It will increase your vocabulary. Dear students, primitive means basic, belonging to early stage. Instinct means natural tendency to behave. Clung is the past of cling. It means to hold on tightly. Tribe means group of people from same race, having same customs, cultures. Jagir is belonging or property. Palatial buildings means palace or related to palace. Shed means sacrifice or to pour out. Let us move to the next page. Dear students, here are some more words taken from the same essay. Genuine means original, having reputed qualities. Sentiment means an attitude or thought or judgment prompted by feeling. Guise means external appearance. We can say resemblance. Black marketers means who is involved in illegal form of trade. Smugglers means illegal importer or exporter. Donate means to give at charity. Virtue means high moral attitude. Dear students, these were the words which were taken from this essay. I think you can understand this essay very well now. Let us start reading. I have divided it into 4 paragraphs. This is the first one. Let us read and try to understand. Patriotism in its simplest term means love of one's country. It is a natural and primitive instinct in us. In the early days, families clung together to save themselves from wild animals. Thus, many families joined together to make a tribe. From the tribes came the nation. We show our love of our nation in many ways. We wave our national flag on happy occasions of the nation. We cheer the speeches of our national leaders. Dear students, it is very simple. After learning the meaning of selected words, I don't think there is any problem to understand this paragraph. This is the second one. True patriotism is more than just making noises. It is to identify ourselves with our nation. People everywhere have done great things for their country. Joan of Arc liberated France from the British. Quaid-e-Azam, the founder of Pakistan, sacrificed his wealth and worked till the last breath of his life for the sake of Pakistan. Liaquat Ali Khan, the first Prime Minister of Pakistan, left a vast jagir and palatial buildings in India and even shed the last drop of his blood for the sake of Pakistan. They made the supreme sacrifice for the sake of their country. Such men can never be forgotten. Dear students, this was paragraph 2. Let us read the third one. Genuine patriotism is a sentiment of which we can always be proud. But there is false patriotism also. What is this false patriotism? This type of patriotism is actually self-interest hidden under the guise of national love. It is such sentiment that leads black marketers and smugglers to give money to the relief funds. They make bad money, and to gain name, they donate some of the fund. Dear students, I think you know very well what is true patriotism and what is untrue patriotism. Let us move to the next paragraph. This is the last one. True patriotism is a great virtue that makes people forget their selfishness. We must develop it in us. But we should not hate other nations for the sake of our own. That is not patriotism. True patriotism does not tell us to hate others. Dear students, we have read all 4 paragraphs. I think they are easy. If you find any difficulty, you can refer to the list that I have presented before the essay. You can find the meaning of all these words. After having knowledge of the meanings of those words, it will be easy for you to prepare for the examination. Now we shall move to read the lesson. Before starting the lesson, I have prepared one more list of words, meaning of which is important to know. I shall read the meaning of these words for you also. These words are taken from the lesson. The list which I read before the essay, those words were taken from the essay, but these words are taken from the lesson. Skillful means the one who is good at doing something. Jet propulsion means the force of jet engine which pushes the jet forward. Turbojet engine means an engine that produces forward movement by forcing out a stream of hot air and gas behind it. Piercing means very high, loud sound. Screech means to make a high, unpleasant sound. Jarring means to give or receive a sudden, sharp, painful knock. Muttered means to say something in a quiet voice. This is the next page. Throttle means to stop breathing or slow down breathing by pressing. Lumps means a piece of something hard or solid. Flung means a short period of fun when we don't worry, there is no worry. Shell fire means attacked by firing shells from a large gun. Mopped means to clean something with the mop. Brow means the part of face above the eye. Grave means very serious. The third page is here. Strain means pressure on a system or a relationship. Braid means to twist 3 or more pieces of hair or rope. Annoyed means slightly angry. Spitfires means a British fighter plane. Meteor is a piece of rock that sometimes we see burning in the sky. Behind it leaves a line of light. Squad means a section of police that deals with the specific issue. Chug chug means to move by making the sound of an engine. Dear students, after reading this list that was taken from the lesson, we are able to read the lesson. This part is about the first jet engine. Our lesson will start from here also, but this is the initial information about first jet engine. Let us read. From an early age, Frank Whittle had two great interests, engines and flying. He joined the Royal Air Force at the third attempt and became a highly skillful pilot. But he was always thinking about engines, especially engines of the future. He considered the idea of jet propulsion. A rocket is driven by jet propulsion when gases are sent out of its tail. Aircraft have been driven by rockets. They go very fast, but their fuel is soon used up. Frank Whittle designed an engine which used a kind of rocket propulsion without using up so much fuel. It was called a turbojet engine. For years, no one was interested. The experts at the Air Ministry in London did not seem to think that it would work. A private engineering company refused to build it, saying that it would cost £60,000. No one in England realized what an important invention it was. At last, years later, two men heard about the engine. They decided to build it and formed a company called Power Jets Limited. It cost them £3,000 to build the engine, for that was all they could afford. Dear students, this is the initial information about the jet engines. Now we shall start our lesson. The heading of our lesson is the flying tea kettle. I have divided it into 6 parts. This is the first part that we are going to read just now. The engine was tested in the works of British Thomson Houston at Rugby. Whittle and his companions stood around it, nervous and worried, as it was switched on. As the engine began to gather speed, a piercing screech came from it, jarring everyone's nerves. Parts of the engine began to glow red hot. Let us move to the next part of our lesson. This is part 2. "It's out of control," muttered one of the watching men. He raced from the workshop, followed by several other men. Whittle stayed by the controls. He was trying to throttle down the engine before it shook itself to pieces. If the engine broke up, lumps of metal would be flung around the workshop like shellfire. No one's life would be safe. That is why Whittle was trying to slow it down. But fortunately, the engine slowed down. Whittle took out his handkerchief and mopped his brow. Whittle and his companions ran grave risks during the earliest tests with that first jet engine. But as Whittle improved it, the danger grew less. At the same time, interest in the new engine grew. People started taking interest in this new engine. Dear students, in front of you, you can see third part of this lesson. At last, the Air Ministry showed interest in the engine. Power jets were granted a sum of 1,900 pounds to help them to carry on with their tests. This was a small sum of money, but it was all that the government felt able to provide at that time. Whittle knew that there were still many problems to be solved before his jet engine could be used in an aircraft. He set out to solve them one by one. At this time, he was often a sick man due to hard work. The strain of the work and worry was telling on him. The Royal Air Force had given him leave so that he could keep working on his invention. But they warned him that this leave might be cancelled if the work went on too long. Whittle was worried about how long it would take him to solve all the problems concerning the engine. He was also worried about power jets. The company was always short of money. Dear students, this is part number 4. In 1939, it seemed as if war was going to break out. The Royal Air Force were short of officers and they wanted Whittle back. But at the Air Ministry, Sir Henry Tizard spoke for the Whittle. The work he is doing is very important, Sir Henry said. So Whittle was allowed to go on working on his engine. By July 1939, Whittle knew enough to set about building a jet engine for use in an aeroplane. The Gloucester Aircraft Company were asked to build a suitable aeroplane. The Second World War began on 3rd September 1939. Whittle carried on working at Lutterworth near Coventry in a makeshift workshop. Makeshift is the word that we have read in Florence Nightingale also. Makeshift means temporary, which can be shifted from one place to another place. At the end of 1940, 134 men were working with him. By this time, it was plain that the jet engine was going to be a success. In the past, few high-ranking officers in the Royal Air Force had shown any interest in flight. Lieutenant. Dear students, in British we read it lieutenant. In American we read it lieutenant. Whittle's invention, now a number of them visited Lutterworth to see what was going on. Dear students, this is the 5th part of our lesson. The jet engine was strange to them. They knew little about it, but they wanted to see it in action. One very high-ranking officer was standing too near to the engine. When Whittle switched it on, he was almost blown over, while his cap, which bore a large amount of gold braid, was blown a considerable distance. The officer was most annoyed, and Whittle and his assistants had to hide their smiles. At last, the Gloucester Whittle E-2839 was ready. It was taken to Cranwell, and on 15th May 1941, the first jet flight over England was made. The flight lasted 17 minutes. It was a complete success. Soon the first jet fighter aircraft was being manufactured. It was the Grostal Meteor, which went into action for the first time in the summer of 1944. The meteor, dear students, meteor, as I told you before, meteor is a piece of rock that burn in the sky, and when we see it at night, it leaves a line of light behind it. Was quickly followed by the de Havilland Vampire, which flew at 500 miles per hour. That was 150 miles per hour faster than the famous Spitfires had flown at the start of the war. Dear students, let us move to the last part of our lesson. This is here. The earliest flights of jet aeroplanes caused people to stare up at the sky in wonder. The unusual screeching, so different from the shug of piston-engined aircraft, caused the jets to be nicknamed flying tea kettles. People started saying them flying tea kettles due to its screeching sound. It was different from shug. People who said they had seen an aeroplane without a propeller were not at first believed. An early meteor crashed and the rescue squad spent several hours searching for its propeller. Whittle's jet engine was top secret until January 1944. Then the first details were made known to the public. Frank Whittle became famous. He had changed the history of flying. Since the end of the war in 1945, the turbojet and prop jet engines have been built for use in airlines like the Bristol Britannia, the de Havilland Comet, and the Boeing 707. The days of piston-engined aircraft are coming to an end. You are growing up in the jet age. Thanks to the Sir Frank Whittle, the inventor was knighted. Knighted means awarded in 1948 when he retired from the Royal Air Force. Dear students, we have read the lesson. There were 6 parts. You may find some of the words with which you may not be familiar. Refer to the list that I have made. In the beginning of the lesson, you will find the meaning of all these words over there. Then it will be easy for you to understand the lesson. Dear students, we have one exercise to do in our today's lesson. Let us read the instructions first of all. Complete each sentence by adding one of the following words. Dear students, these words are given to complete this exercise. Let us read the words first of all. Nervous, worried, piercing, glow, throttle, provide, granted, cancelled, nicknamed, details. Dear students, we shall use these words to complete these fill in the blanks. Let us start from the first one. His real name was John, but he was dash tiny. But he was, what will be here? Can we write here nervous tiny, worried tiny, piercing tiny, glow tiny, throttle tiny? No. What is the correct option? The correct option is nicknamed. Yes, here will be nicknamed. Let us move to the next. The match was dash because of bad weather. what can happen with the match of football, cricket, if the weather is bad? What would happen? The match was nervous? No, the match was worried. The match was piercing. The match was glow. The match was throttle. The match was provide. The match was granted. The match was cancelled. Oh yes, match can be cancelled. This is the proper option. Let us write here cancelled. Let us move to part number 3. The old lady refused to live alone because she was... What can happen with her? She can be nervous. She can be worried. I have written here both. You can use any one of these two. Both of these have nearly equal meaning. You can use here any one of these two. Let us move to the next. As his hand touched the hot metal, a dash pain. Pain is noun. Here should be an adjective. What can be adjective of pain? Yes, it can be piercing. I'm sorry. Let us move to the next, number 5. A car is made to go slower or faster by means of the... Yes, what should be here? We have read it in the lesson by using throttle. The Whittle was trying to slow down the engine. What will be here? It will be throttle. Let us write here. Yes, students. Now we shall move to the next page. What is there in next page? There are 5 more sentences that we shall do. Some insects are able to dash. Insects are able to do what? Glow in the dark so that they can be seen. He was dash a scholarship. He was what? He was granted. Okay, yes, let us move to part number 8. She seemed dash. She is the woman. Here again we can use worried, we can use nervous. Both will be correct, whatever you use. Let us move to part number 9. You bring something to drink and we will dash the food. Provide the food. Let us move to the next. Now that we have agreed the main plan, I will attend to the less important what? Detail. Dear students, we have done this exercise A. Dear students, this exercise A is given at the end of our lesson 5. This is the first exercise from comprehension and vocabulary. We have done this exercise. Dear students, now I shall tell you about your homework. You know very well what we do in our lesson. We do it again in our homework. The first thing will be you will learn and write the essay, patriotism. To prepare it, to learn it will be your homework. After that, you will read the whole passage given in lesson 5. The passage that I read it for you in today's lesson, you will read it once again in your homework to get better understanding of the passage. After this, you will do exercise A that we finished just now. This is given at the end of the lesson in comprehension and vocabulary section. You will do this exercise. After that, you will learn and write the word meanings of the essay and passage. Dear students, you know very well in our today's lesson, I have given 2 lists of word meanings. The first list was prepared from the essay patriotism and second list was prepared from the lesson 5. Is that okay? You will learn and write all those words and their meanings. Dear students, That is all from our today's lesson. See you later in another lesson. Goodbye.